Committee operating budget hearings. We're doing this remotely. Today we're going to be hearing from Parks and Recreation, Library, Arts Commission, Metro Water, and Public Works. I'm going to quickly go over the ground rules that we've got. And those are, we are assuming that all council members have read the materials that the departments have submitted that are available to the public and all council members on the Metro Council Resources website. We're assuming all council members participating have read the budget book pages related to these departments. We will be sticking to questions related to the operating budget and not getting into topics outside of the operating budget. Due to the fact that we're having to do this remotely and the difficulty of that, we're going to stick strictly to the time amounts allotted on the budget. If council members have additional questions that they don't have time for, to get to in the time allotted, you can use the Q&A function in WebEx. For council members, you'll see that in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a question currently that says, please click here to submit questions. You can just click on that and type in what you want, refer to the department, and then we collect all these questions after the meeting, and we'll get them answered publicly on the Council Resources webpage for everybody to see. If you have questions after the hearing is over with, please feel free to email Maria Calder at the Metro Council office, and she will get those answered for you and post the answers for the entire council and the public to be able to see. So with that, I'm going to ask whoever will be the lead person for Parks to unmute themselves and identify who they are, and then we'll get going.
Good afternoon. This is Director Monique Odom. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, thank you. Very well, thank you. So you heard the ground rules, and we're getting going. We're getting going at 4:03, so we'll go to 4:18 at the latest. And if you want to give opening comment, then we'll open it to questions from council members.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair Mendez and committee members. Joining me on the call today is Shanita White, Assistant Director of Finance and Administration. Again, I am Parks Director Monique Odom. Needless to say, it's been a trying year for everyone. Nevertheless, there are always lessons to be learned during adversity, and we've received confirmation for what we have always known. Parks are essential. Parks are essential to our physical and mental health, and parks are essential to the overall health and well-being of our neighborhoods and communities. We are hopeful that even in this new environment and with our new normal, that we will continue to have the undeniable impact that we've always had by continuing to offer the much-needed programs, services, and green spaces that we know are vital to our residents. Our mission at Parks, in short, is to equitably provide everyone in Nashville with an inviting network of parks and greenways. So with that, I'll share a bit about what we have done and what we're doing. Our maintenance division continues to do an outstanding job responding to the many unexpected crises while continuing their regular duties. They answered the call of downed trees, mangled playgrounds, and damaged facilities during the March 3rd tornado and May 5th storm, while also assisting the Office of Emergency Management with issues pertaining to COVID-19. All of this in addition to mowing over 4,000 acres a month, trash removal in 178 parks, cleanup and repairs in 50 buildings, cleaning and sanitizing in our community centers, gyms, lobby areas, showers, and more. Our community centers continue to have a major impact in the neighborhoods and areas in which they're located. During this period, they've partnered with Second Harvest Food Bank and the Mayor's Food Security Initiative by utilizing 4 centers to distribute food boxes to families in need. So far, they've distributed well over 2,000 boxes. But prior to tornadoes, storms, and COVID-19, our staff offered a myriad of programs and services that weren't just popular, but needed. In addition to year-round programming for children, These centers offer programs in dance, music, theater, fine arts, and specific programs for seniors. And I don't have to tell many of you how even before COVID-19, the demand for our centers to open on weekends was and still is high. Our revenue-producing facilities continue to do what they do best, and that is offer unparalleled service in the areas of golf courses, the Centennial Sportsplex, the Parthenon, Wave Country, Hamilton Creek Marina, and the permitting of sports fields, picnic reservations, outdoor fitness, and model airplanes. As you know, during this pandemic, our golf courses have remained open for free play, and it has been very popular. Pre-COVID, our courses showed increased rounds of play, while nationally the trend is decreasing. Our parks police continue to do a yeoman's job in keeping our parks safe. In addition to patrolling and responding to calls, they're providing security at the emergency homeless shelter at the fairgrounds. In the last year, they have responded to over 2,000 calls for service and well over 14,000 community interactions. It's no secret that our greenways have always been one of our most popular amenities, but especially during this time. Our 100 miles of greenway have been well used over the past several weeks. I'd like to thank Greenways for Nashville for posting the CDC's social distancing signs along our trails and greenways. I could go on about all that we do, but before I wrap up, I would like to thank our planning division for all their hard work in project management, including facilitating the redesign of Centennial Park and the development and improvement of spaces throughout the park system. Our environmental education and outdoor recreation division for all the great nature, environmental, sustainability programs that are so very popular in the community. Our community affairs division for communicating 24/7 to our many different constituencies on a number of different issues and on a variety of platforms. Our finance and administration division for keeping our invoices current and our employees paid, among the other endless tasks that fall to that division. And finally, thank you to the Parks Board for their support and leadership. This concludes my remarks. I am prepared to take your questions.
Thank you, Director Odom. All right, council members, if you have a question for Director Odom and Parks, please use the raise hand function in WebEx. Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Ms. Odom, for being here for all that Parks does. I got in a little late because, as usual, I had technical difficulties and operator error. So you may have answered this already, but does the funding that we've given you cut back on community center hours at all, or will you be able to maintain that same level?
No, we'll be able to maintain at the same level.
Great, I'm glad to hear that. Well, thanks for all y'all do.
Thank you.
Councilmember Druffel.
Yeah, thanks, Ms. Odom. Thanks, Chair. Two questions, and if you don't have the answer right away, that's fine. Under your program revenue, you show charges, commissions, and fees going up about $2 million. Just curious how that's being developed. And then on two is, and that's going up $2 million from 1920 to 2021. And the second question would be other expenses. I keep highlighting this, but other expenses is going up $1,065,000 from 20 to 21. So if you could answer those questions, I'd appreciate it. Thanks so much for all you do.
Thank you, Councilman Druffel. So the increase in charges, commissions, and fees is primarily attributed to an increase in fees across the department. Those fees were approved back in February by the Parks Board, and they will become effective July 1. So that is primarily the what those revenue increases are attributed to. And so in regard to what appears to be an increase in other expenses, that $1,065,000 is the amount of our savings target. And after I speak, I'll be glad to defer to the Finance Department in terms of the presentation on this document, but I'll explain it as best I can. So the $1,065,000 had been held for this current fiscal year, the previous year, in a budget adjustment object account in a separate part of the budget. And so when those became real and we're realizing those to become permanent, they have been moved to personal services. Up at the top, if you look at the 1.295,700 figure, that is the net of $1,065,000 and the amount for our longevity, which is about $230,000. So that net is there. And so to keep it balanced, that's why it appeared that way on this stage.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Suara.
Thank you, Chair. And this, I was going to ask about the other expenses as well, and maybe this is something that the Chair might look to, maybe if we can get a breakdown for these other expenses for every department, because it seems to be the area where the number jumps up at everybody. So, Ms. Odom, I got your explanation, and thank you for that. I guess my question will be, do you know what that amount is your actual in 2020 on the other expenses? Because right now the budget there is $1.5 million. You're budgeting it to be $2 million for FY21. So, you know what that line item will show maybe around March to be able to see if that saving amount is high or low or anything to compare it to?
I would have to look at and get you that figure, because that other expenses is actually an amalgamation of a number of different object accounts. So I could get you that number, though, of what is comprising in that category.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Councilmember Suara, if you could go ahead and type that question into the Q&A so we make sure to capture it, that would be great. And then we'll move on to Councilmember Toombs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Odom, in the questionnaire from Parks and Recreation, you mentioned a strain on resources due to a loss in positions and possible reduction in the level of services. Can you explain a little bit what that means? Is there like do you have a list or an idea of what services may need to be reduced?
So thank you so much for your question, Councilmember Toombs. So that is to really reflect that what you all probably already know. So these savings targets, ours is $1,065,000, have been carried over the past 2 years. So they are for us, they have been positions that have been frozen. I think it's about 89 positions, a mixture of full-time, part-time, and seasonal. And so we have been a bit hamstrung without those positions. Granted, up to now, we have operated for the past 2 years without those positions. So we will, once those are removed from the budget permanently, we will recalibrate and try to manage expectation of the public to try to make our operations much more efficient. As you know, the project plans the entire county, and we are understaffed to serve the entire county and underfunded to serve the entire county. And so that is merely what that means, is that we will recalibrate the operations to kind of get back to basics and determine how we need to continue to meet the needs of the public, but still manage expectation.
So just to follow up, are there some, with the lack of those 89 positions, are there any particular areas where you find that that are especially problematic in providing those services to the public?
Well, the bulk of the positions come from community centers division and then our revenue generating division. So that is like golf courses, country, places like that, sportsplex, and in those areas they are primarily seasonal. But as I did mention, we are our staffing level is staffing level is anemic, and it has quite some time. And so even reducing these even reducing these kind of in a status quo position. Again, I will mention we have operated for the past 2 years having these positions frozen. So moving forward, there may not be any change, but then again, we certainly now knowing that the positions will not be restored, we will need to recalibrate the operations.
Thank you, Director. Council Member Henderson.
Thank you, Chair Mendez. Ms. Odom, my question is somewhat similar to Councilmember Toombs, but more particular to the maintenance area. And you and I had discussed in past years, I know other council members had inquired about some intention around trying to have kind of more naturalized areas in parks rather than areas that had to be mowed just from a maintenance perspective. And then also kind of in this same space, particular to your tree crew, I wonder if you could speak to the emerald ash borer epidemic and the implications of that for the park system, and increasingly all these straight line wind events that we're having, and whether we're having to kind of contract that work out. You know, I know we've got some grant funding for the EAB assessment, but can you speak a little more into the kind of the grounds and tree space and the implications of our weather patterns and this EAB epidemic, which is going to take so many of our trees and potentially those being hazards in our park system, so they're going to need to be addressed this budget year. Can you speak to those two things, please?
Sure. So as many of you know, and certainly you do, Councilmember Henderson, the emerald ash borer, I'll call it an epidemic, will devastate the tree canopy in Nashville. It will. And, of course, Parks and Recreation are home to lots of those trees. I expect there to be a citywide response working with Rebecca Doan and her team over at Water Services, a citywide response to emerald ash borer. And in fact, that's already started. And looking and doing an inventory of our trees, it will be at least $1.5 million to address removing the trees that need to be removed. And so it is, you never know when it's going to happen, but those trees in many areas have already been identified. There's a contractor that has worked with the city and also has been working with us to identify those trees and let us know which ones need to be removed. And they're based on a scale of those which are in areas that are there's high attendance of the public or a risk of accident happening to, you know, some of the more outlying areas. There are quite a few, as you know, Councilmember Henderson, in the Warner Parks, so that area will definitely be devastated. In terms of our natural disasters or weather patterns that are happening here, for the past few times, again, I mentioned in my the tornado and then the storms earlier this month, our maintenance team, tree team, grounds crew has been out working in response to those weather events, trees, repairing ground irrigation systems and things like that. So our maintenance team, I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir as I speak to council members in particular. Our ground maintenance team and consolidated maintenance team touches every area of this park system and every area of this department. Our department is just in general understaffed in those areas. We do the best we can with what we have, and I appreciate their dedication, time, and hard work, and we try to be responsive to the needs of not only the park system but to the public. But we do have a capacity issue, and we'll continue to have a capacity issue. I'd just like to add as I start my remarks, but this budget is basically a status quo from this year and the year prior. And while I've been in Metro, as many of you have, been in Metro government in years where we were doing 5 and 10% reductions, while I'm not happy to see any kind of a reduction, I would gladly take this over another kind of a reduction that may result in some circumstances that I would not like or wouldn't benefit the public, I should say that.
Thank you, Director Odom. If any other council members have more follow-up questions, please go ahead and put them in the Q&A function in WebEx, and we'll get them answered. We've gone a couple minutes over. Director, thank you very much for you and your team coming to visit with us today, and we know it's trying times for everybody, and appreciate everything you and your entire staff and team do. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Chair.
All right, next we'll have library. If whoever is the lead for that wants to unmute and identify themselves, we'll get going.